Hi, welcome to my channel, The Reclusive Crafter. My name's Dawn. Today I'm going to be taking you through one of the weekly prompts from Create with Scrimping Mummy. I just thought I'd just take you through my process of how I go about things. So this week's challenge is, it's actually week 8, and the challenge is Cherry Blossom, reuse or recycle, magazine or coloured book page, stencils, ink blending or smooshing. So the basic prompts are, you have to use the first one, but you can use any of the others that you want to. I've pulled a few bits and pieces together to see what I can produce. I've decided to do these challenges by making journal cards, because I think it's quite a nice way to build up your stash a little bit. So I've already cut a couple of card pieces to the size that I want them, and I've pulled out of my stash. I've got a really pretty napkin which I'm going to make use of, and so that's the napkin I'm going to make use of. And there's Cherry Blossom and Think designs on here, which I thought was quite appropriate for the prompt. So that's going to be my recycling, if you like, because otherwise these wouldn't really get used. The inks, I've pulled out some inks which I'm going to do on the background of the card. Not quite sure how this is going to work out or how many of them I'm going to use, so we're going to try those. And I've also pulled out some stamps to stamp the journal cards once it's all put together. So let's see how we get on. This is just a glass, I'm sorry if this is reflecting, this is just a glass plate for me to put the inks down on, because my intention is to do a bit of smooshing with the ink. So I'm not quite sure how this is going to work out, because I've never done this before, so it's all going to be a little bit of a learner for me. And some of these I've not actually used before, and I need a pin, and my pin seems to have gone walkabouts. Just bear with me one moment while I grab a pin. If you haven't used these sort of inks before, these are actually just alcohol inks which are used for resin, and they can be really messy. The recommendation is to wear gloves, but in true style with any crafter, we never do what we're told. So I'm just going to get a little bit of tissue and just pierce that. I completely missed there. There we go. Now to take them out, I have found that when you take the pin out after piercing it, it tends to splurge out. So I'm just going to use a bit of tissue to stop myself getting really messy. There we go. And we are now going to make a bit of a mess. So I'm just going to smoosh these about a little bit and just see how we get on. So the colours were blue, yellow, pink, darker pink, and a crimson-y sort of pink. So I'm not sure if I've actually used this one before. Possibly not. They do need a really good shake if they've been sitting idle for a little while. And like I say, I'm really not sure how this, oh that's pretty, that's gold rather. That's actually supposed to be a sand yellow. It does say it's metallic, but that's really pretty. And with the theme as well, with the cherry blossom, which kind of gives me an oriental sort of vibe, that's actually quite in keeping, I think. So I'm just gonna, this one I definitely haven't used before, so I'm just going to pierce this one as well. If I'd have thought about it, I could have done this before we started, but hey ho, it's all part of the process. There we go. These don't seem to be smooshing up the same way as some others did that I've used. And that's supposed to be a pink. Vaguely, I guess. And then this one's, oh, that one was a light pink. Yeah, light pink. And then this one is just an ordinary pink. That's that one. Like I say, I'm really not sure how this is going to work out. I might absolutely hate it by the time we've done. I might not even use it, but we shall see. That's very pretty. I'm just going to leave the tops off of these for now. And then we've got a pomegranate red. I'm hoping this is in keeping with the colour theme that was suggested. Ouch, just stabbed myself. There we go. Okay, so that's all the inks pierced. Let's have a look and see what colour this is. I don't really see that there's a lot of difference in colour between the two of those, but we shall see. Okay, now you are supposed to use, I think it's an isopropyl liquid with these, but I have found that water does help as well if you spray a little bit of water. And I'm just going to spray a little bit of water on the card as well to help it absorb. And then we're just going to do a little bit of smooshing. And we're going to see how this all comes out. Like I say, I've really got no idea at the moment as to what this is actually going to look like. So we shall see. There we go. That's quite pleasant. Oh, I like the gold little flecks coming through on there. That's quite nice. And then I'm just going to smoosh about with my second piece. Like so. And that's maybe a little bit more red, that one. Not sure if I'm going to be able to get any more off of that. Let's have a look, see how we're doing. Okay. Now I think I'd like a little bit more gold in that one, so I'm just going to pop a little bit of ink down, give it another squidge, and I'm just going to smoosh that about again. Maybe a bit too much smooshing. Let me see if I can apply it directly on there. Oh, I like that. The way it's bleeding out, that's really nice. I like that. Let me see if I can just get that to move around a little bit. I did do some marbling, some paper marbling with these inks the other day, which I put a short video on, and some of the results came out really nicely. And I'm just going to lay this one over the top of that one, see if I can transfer some of that. Yeah, that's nice, I like that. I'm just going to put a little bit more blue on this one as well. You can play about with these as much as you want to. I've not really worked with these inks an awful lot, but I do like the effect of them. And again, I'm just going to turn this one over and just pop it on top of that one, getting very messy. Okay, that's that one. There we go. Okay. And I think I want a little bit of the light pink on this one. Although having said that, you can't really see that. I'm just going to give that another shake. That's nice. I'm going to pop some of that down there as well. And then I think I'd like a little bit more gold, but I'm not going to smoosh this one about quite as much as I did before, because I do like the effect of it. Although I would like it to smoosh about a little bit more than it is. Maybe. Let's see if we can move that down a little bit. That's better. Okay. I think I'd like a bit more colour up there. I think we'll go with a little bit of blue up the top here. And this is just water in this spray bottle, by the way. It's nothing special. You'd probably get a completely different effect with the isopropyl. I think it's called isopropyl spray, but I don't actually have any to hand, and I just want to see the effects of the water more than anything. There we go. Okay, I'm just going to leave those to just dry a little bit, and I'm going to clean up a little bit. There we go. That's good. I think I'm quite happy with those. They are literally only going to act as a background anyway, so they will be fine as a background. Just going to move that around a little bit. There we go. Okay, I'm just going to dry these off and I'll come back to you in a moment. Okay, so we've got the cards dry, so all I'm going to do now is pop a little bit of glue over the top of the card. This is slightly thinner cardstock than I would normally work with, but I just had some scraps that I wanted to make use of and get rid of, so that's all part of the upcycling and recycling of bits and pieces. And now I'm just going to bring that down slightly, hopefully you're still in shot, and I'm going to pop that on there. There we go. I'm just going to smooth that down. Give it a really good press in. Very gently smooth it out because I don't want to actually rip the napkin. And then you can hopefully still make out the colorations in the background. That's that one done. And now I'm just going to very carefully, if I can, just cut that off of there because I want to use this next section on my second card. I'm just very carefully just going to cut that. It's still a bit wet at the moment, so I'm just going to leave that to dry. So that's principally the first one, although I do need to trim it up a little bit at the moment. I'm just going to leave that one there to dry. And then while that one's drying, I'm just going to glue this one up and get my design onto this one. I hope you're all having a good day. This is actually going to be going out on Wednesday, but today's Sunday for me, and it's absolutely chucking it down again outside. It's literally just started. So it looks like we're in for another wet one today. And this one, I want to bring this one up a little bit and just pop that You just have to be a little bit careful with napkin because it's not very forgiving, and when it's in the single ply like this, it does tend to rip very easily. So that's that piece on. So happy with that. We've got blossom, the cherry blossom all in there, and the inking on the background. Just going to pull that up. There we go. So that's that one done. I'm just going to get my glue book even out of the way, and I'm just going to trim these up just a little bit, not too much at the moment. I'll trim them up properly once they're properly dry and we've completed the task. So that's that one. Okay, so hopefully you can now see the design beginning to come together on these, which is lovely. I'm just going to have a look at the prompts to see what else it is. So it's actually stenciling rather than stamping. Might leave that bit out. Magazine or coloured book page. Yeah, maybe I've not done quite so well on meeting the challenge on this. I have used the inks, so the ink blending is all done. And I've done the napkin. I'm just pressing these down so that I've got no air bubbles that are likely to come through. Okay, and I'm just very quickly, I say quickly, I'm going to get my little dryer and just dry these. Dry these off a little bit. This little dryer is really good if you're drying inks and things and you don't want them to move around the page, but they're not great for doing larger items. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pause the video a second, guys, and I can turn this off. There we go. I'm going to pause the video a second and I'm just going to dry these off properly so that I can get on to the next stage. Hi, and we're back again. So I've dried off the cards and I've trimmed them up as well. So what we've got now is the two cards with the background with the inks done, and I've popped the napkin over the top. Now I was going to do some stamping, but being as though the prompt is stenciling, what I've decided to do is to find a little stencil that I thought would work nicely with this particular design. So we're going to do just the tiniest little bit of stenciling on here, just to give it a little bit of a lift, not too much. But we're just going to just do a little bit of stenciling, and the colour I've decided to use is Hickory Smoke. I don't want to be too heavy with this because I don't want it to look like it's overtaking the design, but I just want it to be very subtly, which I think that really works nicely actually. And I think we'll pop a little bit maybe here. We'll pop a little bit more on there with a bit of the wording. I'm just using the card at the back just to protect the mat at the moment. That's very nice, I like that. And I think I'll just go up there a little bit So I don't want to do too much on these because I don't want to take away from the actual design themselves. I just think it's a really pretty design. I want to be a little bit careful about how I'm doing it. So that's nice. I like that very much. And then we're just going to go in, I think, just around here. Just a little bit there. And I think overall, I think I'm quite happy with that. I might just come in with a little bit down here. Just the tiniest, I think I'll use that little flower down there. Just the tiniest little impression down there. And then I think I will do the same. I think I'll do the same in this corner, but maybe a little bit of wording, or maybe that little bit of flower there, I think. So I'll just pop that there. Gosh, can you hear that rain, guys? It's absolutely teeming it down. And I've got to keep the window open because although it's raining, it's actually really warm. Okay, so there we go. I'm actually really happy with how they look at the moment. I'm just going to find something just to, maybe a label or something to go on them. And I think we're nearly there with those. So let me just pop that to one side. I'm going to grab my label box. So you can see what I've got. So I've got a couple of boxes with labels. I'm just going to see if there's anything that would work. I like that because it's pink, but I just, I'm not. No, I don't like those. Don't like that. I'm just having a rummage through at the moment to see if I've got anything in here that might work on this design. I'm not really too sure that I have, if I'm honest. I might have to go away and think about this. Oh. That's probably a bit big. That would have worked quite nicely. What have we got in here? I think there's slightly smaller ones in here. Oh, they're very cute, aren't they? Let me have a look and see what that looks like. Not sure. Let's try a blue one. That's very cute. I could maybe do a couple of them potentially. I don't really know. I just don't really know. And they're a little bit too big. Don't like those. I actually quite like that. I don't really know why I like it, because it's a bit of a random... Oh, perfect. That's lovely. Like that. I think I'm just going to go with those two. I quite like those. So we're just going to pop those on. Actually, I'm going to, before I glue that, I'm going to just pop a little bit of ink around the edging, just to give it a little bit of definition. And I think I'll do the same with this one. And I don't particularly want to lose the entire red edging because I'd rather like that. I do want to give it a little bit of definition. Okay, so that's that bit done. Close that up. Let's glue this into place. And I think I want that one there, like that. And then this one, I really think this works well on here, and I really am not sure why, but I really like that one. I think that's a lovely little label for there. It's a little bit random, but I quite like that. There we go. And that also brings in the colour of the prompt, which was that kind of sandy yellow. So prompt wise, we've got the baby blue in the background. We've now got the yellow on the labels. We've got the three pinks in variations. So I think we've won on that level. We've got the cherry blossoms in here as well. So the cherry blossoms are dotted around. I've used stenciling, so we've done that one. I've done the ink blending because that's on the background of the cards. And I have recycled-ish because I've used some bent napkins that otherwise wouldn't have got used. So I think on the whole, I think we have won on that one. So I'm going to call that done. I'm just going to finish them off. I like to round the edges on my journal cards. Where's my scissors gone? I think these are maybe still a bit damp because that's not clipped that well at all. I'm just going to trim that round. There we go. I wonder if I try popping two in together, whether or not that will work better. Yeah, that's better. That got it. That do the job. I just need to make sure now that the two corners are married up. That do the job. And that one. There we go. That's nice. And I've just got that final one to do if I can get that in. I don't know that that's going to work. Oh, it did. Marvellous. So, there we go. So that's those. And now I'm just going to do a little bit of inking around the edge, just to give it a final little finish. A little bit of inking, and again I'm going to stick with the hickory smoke. So we've got a theme running through on these cards. I'm just wondering actually whether or not to back them with a little bit of coffee dyed paper, because these are a lot thinner than I would usually use for journal cards. But having said that, I really like the designs on the back. I think it would be a shame to cover that up really. So maybe not. Maybe we'll just have a couple of journal cards that are kind of journal papers. I think we'll go with journal cards that are journal papers. That's that one done. And oops. And then let me just finish this one off. There we go, nearly there. And that's it. So that is this week's challenge. Hopefully I've met the brief well. So I'm just going to pop that back on the white cover there so that you can see that. I'm going to have to flatten them down a little bit because they are a little bit raised. There we go. So that's my challenge for this week. So the challenge was create with scrimping, cherry blossom, reuse or recycle, magazine or coloured book page, stencil, and ink blending or smooshing. So those are those. I think I'd like to put some of these wordings on there as well. Yeah, I think I will use some of those because they're really, really sweet actually. So I'm just going to cut these out and just see what I want to use. Okay, I quite like Let Your Inner Beauty Inspire Others. I'm going to cut that one out. See, you never really know when you're finished with these things because there's always something else that you want to do. Okay. Now then, where would I like those? Just going to trim these down a little bit. It'd be nice if I could actually cut straight, wouldn't it? That's still not straight, but hey, it'll do. I suppose that's the beauty of handmade things, isn't it? It's perfection is never going to be achieved. As long as the person that's receiving it likes it, that's all that really matters. Okay, so what do we want to do? I'm loath to cover anything up, if I'm honest. That's a bit awkward. I just really like the designs of those napkins. Let me just trim these down a little bit more. There we go. In fact, I think I'm going to cut that in half. And I'd like to just give it a little bit of a discoloration with the smoky look. And this one the same, a little bit of discoloration with the smoky look. There we go, nice. Maybe pop that one there. What do you think? I sometimes wish people could talk to me, give me some inspiration. I've got in a right mess with this particular challenge. My hands are filthy. Just going to trim that a little bit more because that's not terribly straight either. Goodness, let me just pop that around there. I think I might go in and just do a bit of line around these, possibly. Don't know. Right then, let's get these bits stuck down. Okay, that's that one. I'm going to pop that one there. I'm trying to be quite thoughtful about where I put these so that I'm not detracting from the designs themselves. I think I'm going to pop that one over there. So that's that one. Okay, let your inner beauty inspire others. Love that. You could almost imagine that's what he's saying to her, couldn't you? Right then, and that leaves us with Cherry Blossoms Whisper, the Beauty of Now. I think I'm just going to go with Cherry Blossoms Whisper. I quite like that. Oops. I hope you're all enjoying your Sunday. Not quite sure where you are, or if you're in the UK, or if you are in the UK, where you're actually based, but I hope the weather's being kinder to you than it is to us. It's quite mucky outside, to say the least. Okay, nice. Do we want just one, or do we want to cut it up? I don't rightly do. I think I'm going to be a bit boring on this one and just go across the bottom on that. Again, purely because I'm just conscious of not detracting from the actual design. I just really think it's very pretty, and there we go. I like that. That's good. Okay. So I think this time we have finished, guys. I think I'm happy with that now. We've got a little label on there, just to give it a little bit of added depth and layering. We've got the wordings on there, and we've pretty much met the prompts as it was made. So I think the only thing I haven't really used is magazine or coloured book page. Everything else I think is in there, so that's lovely. So I'm going to call it a day. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I'd love to have you on board. Please do so, and give me a thumbs up. Thank you.